major data breach or leak in California associated with concealed carry permit holders. You need to know what happened and why it matters to you. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, a proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, and member of the United States Supreme Court Bar. If you haven't already subscribed to the Four Boxes Diner, please do so. We would appreciate it, you showing love for our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Breaking news out of California. It turns out that the California Department of Justice has somehow, either by a leak or a hack or some other data breach, has somehow allowed or caused there to be hundreds, if not thousands, of gun owners in California, specifically concealed carry permit holders, have their personal identifying information to be released. We're not exactly sure of the full extent of this, but their names, presumably their addresses, identifying information, all that stuff has apparently been made publicly available somehow through some sort of a quote-unquote error. We don't know. Maybe it was intentional. We're going to find out at some point, hopefully. Bottom line is this, that this information has now been publicly available. Some of the people who have now been revealed to carry guns include a bunch of California judges and law enforcement officers and a lot of other private citizens, is my guess. So, why does this matter to you? I think this is very important for several reasons. First of all, so one wonders whether or not this breach or leak or whatever happened in California is somehow in retaliation for the Supreme Court's decision in NYSERPA versus Bruen that says that those states like California, like New York, like Hawaii, that have a may issue permitting system, whether or not that somehow gun owners in that state of California are being punished. That's very interesting. We're going to find out more soon. But the bottom line is this. I've told you on this channel the importance of having no gun registration, about minimizing the amount of information associated with guns and gun owners that the government has. I know it's not a perfect system. I'm not endorsing the current system, but we want to minimize information going to the government about guns and gun owners for many reasons. This thing in California is just the latest, greatest reason, because again, all that information about concealed carry holders in California now appears to have been made publicly available, allowing people to know who they are, which means that when those people, their house is dark because they've gone away on vacation, presumably people now know, criminals know, hey, there's probably guns in that home, maybe some expensive guns because they're on the concealed carry list. Alternatively, it also basically, tells people, well, there's people with guns in there. Maybe they don't want to hit that house. Maybe they want to hit some other house. We don't know. But beyond that, we have to remember, and I want to keep hitting home this fundamental point, that any gun registry held by the government of guns or gun owners is very bad, and our country has always recognized that this is very, very bad. Going all the way back to 1941, in fact, the first congressional law that I'm aware of that specifically says that we don't want a gun registration of gun owners or gun owners or guns was in 1941. That was in response to Germany's behavior in the start of World War II. You see, what happened was in October of 1941, the United States Congress passed a law, basically a requisition act, that said that they were preparing to go to war. Wasn't yet. It was October 1941. Pearl Harbor had not occurred yet, but Congress still passed a law, which I'll put links down below, that said this. They said, look, the government may have to requisition, which means to take private property to fight the war. We don't know yet, but we're going to get ready for it. We're passing this law. But despite that passage of the law, it specifically exempted guns, gun registries, and the like. It specifically said that nothing about this requisition act that allows us to take assets allows us to take private guns from private individuals. It doesn't allow us to create a gun registry or anything like that. And why is that? Why would Congress in 1941, in October of 1941, pass such a law? The answer is because they had looked across the Atlantic and they saw what had happened with the Nazis from 1933 to then the present day. What had happened? Well, Stephen Halbrook, a historian, wrote a powerful book called Gun Confiscation in the Third Reich. And what did that book teach us? And this is something, of course, that our Congress in 1941 was living and seeing. It was this. When the Weimar Republic, which was the government, they were the people that ran the government. The Weimar Republic ran the government effectively before the Nazis. And what did they do? And they were doing it in the early 1930s. They actually passed a decree that said that gun owners had to register their guns and register. In theory, it was for public safety. Well, those listed gun owners and guns, guess what happened in 1933? Well, in 1933, the Nazi Party came to power and got a hold of all those lists. And what did they do? Well, Attorney Halbrook in his book gun confiscation and Third Reich tells us what they did. We know what they did. They went house to house and they used these lists to go out and take the guns away from those private Germans, those German individuals and those German families that had guns that the Nazis didn't like. That would be the Jews and anyone else that were not sympathetic to the Nazi party's goals. Well, the U.S. government in 1941 saw what happened in Germany and they didn't want it to occur in the United States, so they passed that law in 1941. But this is not the last time that the U.S. Congress banned gun registries and gun registrations and gun owner registrations. They did it again in at least 1986, where they passed a law, which I'll put a link to down below, that says there's no gun registrations of gun owners or guns allowed in the United States. And again, in 1993, this happened yet again. This says, nope, no gun registration, no gun registries. Again, from the beginning, Americans do not want this. And why is this? Most importantly, of course, set aside the data breach in California, which appears to be maybe a retaliation for the Bruen decision in favor of gun owners. It seems to me that the most important reason why we don't want gun registries or gun lists or gun owner lists is because those lists make it 1,000 times easier for the government, any government, to go out and confiscate our guns. We do not want our guns confiscated. That would be unconstitutional under the Second Amendment. And practically speaking, you don't want the government to be able to do this even beyond the Second Amendment, just for public policy and safety purposes, because you want to thwart tyranny. In particular, government tyranny. That's what the Constitution is all about, is checks and balances to prevent government tyranny. That's the whole idea of our constitutional system. And again, if you don't have gun lists, if you don't have gun owner lists, it makes it a lot harder for the government to go out and try to figure out where the guns are and who has the guns. And because they can't figure it out that easily, it's a lot harder for them to disarm Americans, because we never want to be disarmed, because you know and I know that a disarmed population ceases to be citizens. They become serfs or subjects. And that's not what we are here in the United States. We're citizens. And the last point I want to make is I will also put a link to this down below. We also know that in Ukraine right now, what's going on is in those parts of Ukraine that Russia controls, there has been reported about basically the gun owner list and the gun list and the gun registries that were put together by Ukraine's government. There's reports that the Russians are using those lists to go door to door to try to capture any gun owners or any guns that the Ukrainians held or owned before the Russian invasion. Again, bottom line is California teaches us no gun registrations, no gun owner registrations. We must fight this at every step. And to the extent Joe Biden is trying to get around this with ATF regulations, we want to fight that as well, because we do not want this Biden administration or any administration trying to get around our gun registration bans and prohibitions under federal law by using regulations and the ATF or any government agency. Okay, I hope you learned something here today at the Four Boxes Diner. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And again, we'll see you soon here at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.